In 1963, World in Action made a film about these 7-year-old children. They talked about their homes, their schools, and what they wanted to be. They were filmed again when they were 14. We brought them all together to watch the films because this year they are 21. What are they doing now? How have they changed? What sort of people are they? Give me a child until he is 7, and I will give you the man.
When I leave the school, I'm going to College Court. And then I will be going to Westminster boarding school if I pass the exam. And then we think I'm going to Cambridge and Trinity Hall. Well, before I'm old enough to get stuff, I just walk around and see what I can find. I want to be a jockey when I grow up. Yeah, I want to be a jockey when I grow up. When I leave school, I'm going to a dragon school. I might. And after I might go to Charterhouse, Marlborough.
What about university, Charles?
I might go to Oxford. What does university mean? Well, I don't think I need to go to university because I'm not going to be a teacher. I don't think you want to go to university if you want to be an astronaut. When I leave the school, I'm down for Heathfield and South Manor. And then maybe I may want to go to a university, but I don't know which one yet. I will buy myself a new nice house, you know. One that's all nice and comfy. I'm going to work in Woolworths. Well, I'll go into Africa and try and teach people who are not civilised to be more or less good. When I grow up, I'd like to find out all about the moon and all that.
It's just that the limitations of such things as what the audience require and the time don't allow it to be a real study. I mean, if we accept this, then okay, I think it's probably good entertainment.
I don't think we've changed that much. I think we talk. No, I don't mean looks. Yeah, I mean, the way we talk, I don't think we've changed that much.
Well, you never lose an East End accent, will you?
I tell you what, as it goes, you've definitely changed.
I think so, yeah.
In facial.
You haven't changed it, have
Don't you think so? I thought I got bigger.
You might be about an inch big.
An inch?
It's not legal for a woman.
That's something I did notice. All our teeth have changed.
Teeth?
Yeah. Mine are like that.
Well, I noticed
have
the
shut
ears,
back.
actually.
Did you not notice that a lot of your ears have been really done about them?
They got their conclusions settled already.
And that's
The very fact that we met here today, and we've seen the films, and we feel as if we know everybody who's in the films now, has broken any class barriers that could possibly have existed. And therefore, the film itself has possibly defeated its own object.
They do lead one on a bit, don't they?
That's what I mean, and they bung the programme up too much.
Yeah.
To sort of extent to make that you're good and I'm bad.
Yeah.
Or
vice versa, I think.
no, don't be silly.
No, I really do, actually, especially the 7th one.
People tend to read significance into it that I don't think exists. One of my friends, for instance, had me pointed out to him as being destined to run the farm and being educationally pretty inept. This was obvious from the film.
At 7, Nicholas was at a one-room village school in the Yorkshire Dales.
Do you have a girlfriend?
I don't want to answer that. I don't answer those kind of questions.
I thought that one would come up because when I was doing the other one, somebody said, "What do you think about girls?" And I said, "I don't answer questions like that. Is that the reason you're asking it?" Yeah, I thought so.
The best answer would be to say that I don't answer questions like that, but I mean, it was what I said when I was 7, and it's still the most sensible, but I mean, what about them?
Well, you seemed at 14 very shy of the whole sexual life. Has that changed?
I tried to make a change, yes. Very definite, conscious effort not to be shy. to be more outgoing. And this is actually something I can sort of point to in my own past and think, yes, I did make my mind up here and here that I was going to try and change this and this being basically my confidence and my sort of approach to, well, this is to people in general.
When I grow up, I'd like to find out all about the moon and all that.
I mean, I'm not... And I said I was interested in physics and chemistry, well, I'm not going to do that here.
Oh. You might be able to get somebody to will you explain this thing to me again?
Nicholas is now in his second year at Oxford University.
Well, I'm trying to be a physicist. To fill in the detail of whenever you meet somebody at university, the standard question is, where are you and what are you doing? And my answer is, I'm at Merton College and I'm doing physics.
I'm doing that till it doesn't move up and down, just rotates.
Okay.
Can you bang it in?
We'll give it a whirl.
So what career are you going to pursue?
It depends whether I'll be good enough to do what I want to really do. I would like, if I can, to do research.
Are there any disadvantages in coming from a small place like this and preparing yourself for Oxford?
Well, it's a rather different background to go anywhere, Oxford, perhaps especially. It is rather more firm foundation, I would have thought, as to your character, than being brought up in a city. It's a fixed reference point in a sense, that sort of earthy life and death cycle that you get living on a farm. So when something dies, it rots and feeds back into the earth. Sometimes it's helpful in a city where things that some people are very concerned about seem quite irrelevant.
Is there any strength of your father as a farmer that do you think he's transmitted to you?
Well, you get a certain sort of calmness in some situations, you know, take things as they come, you become resigned to things. If the dog's chasing the animals in the wrong direction, then you just have to put up with it. If it won't do as it's told, you become resigned to these things. I suppose, yes, that's one possibility.
Come on, Duffy, come on.
Stop! Come on, lads.
I suppose of all the 7-year-olds, the original ones, you are the big success.
I'm not inclined to accept that.
Why? You wouldn't agree with that?
Well, what have I achieved? I'm not really prepared to accept that I've done anything very special yet. I'd like to think that, I'm hoping that I might do it at some stage, but I don't really think that I've done anything you can call a great success. It would seem really ridiculous to any of my friends who watch this if I said, Christ, aren't I a great success? Look at me. What success? I can't think of it in those terms. I haven't done anything that can be called a success. Nothing out of the ordinary, really.
Singing Waltzing Matilda in Latin at an exclusive pre-preparatory school in London, Charles, Andrew and John.
I think it's not a bad idea to pay for schools, because if we didn't, schools would be so nasty and crowded. Yes. So do I think so. Yeah. And the man in charge of the school.
Do you think there's any truth in the ideas behind the programme, that certain people have more options than others, and this is undesirable?
It's certainly true that more people know they have more options, or imagine they have. I think in practical terms, the difference in numerical number of options isn't that great. The fact is that the three of us know that there's a whole range of things we can do.
But the mere knowledge creates an option in itself.
Yes.
So I think we do have more options. And it is undesirable, but it's very difficult to correct.
I don't think it is undesirable at all. I think what's undesirable is people who have had options don't make advantage, take best advantage of them. But I can't see there's anything wrong as long as people don't abuse the opportunities and privileges they've had. If people behave responsibly, I think it's very good. There's a sort of stability and structure in society.
We've been taught to expect more. It's not that because we've been to private schools, we're better qualified necessarily.
No.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's a matter of expectations.
Yes, I must say, all this talk about opportunities, it's something I did slightly object to in the programmes. We were shown at the age of 7, outlining sort of the academic sort of career that most of us did in fact pursue. Each sentence ended up, John is at Westminster, Andrew is at Charterhouse and everything, implying that we just sailed through, merely manifesting an intention at the age of 7. It didn't show the sleepless nights, the sort of poring over our books, the sort of, all the sweat and toil that got us to university. It was presented as if it was just, part of some indestructible birthright that we went to all these places, and I thought that was unfair. It didn't show us sort of having to do beastly jobs in the holidays, to make ends meet and things. It didn't give a very real sort of impression.
The 3 girls are earning. Income-wise, they're far better off than I imagine all 3 of us are. Certainly I am. And background-wise, in terms of qualifications or the means of achieving their ends, they probably have just as many options as we do.
Jacqueline, what do you think about coloured people? Well, they're nice, they're just the same as us, really. But one thing, that it's only because their skin's brown and we're white. Sort of pinkish we are. Some people from Africa...
Jackie, Lynn and Susan. They went to primary school together in the East End of London. Lynn chose to go on to a grammar school, and Jackie and Susan to a comprehensive.
There is a danger, though, that you would get married at early 20s and have children quickly and then be stuck at home. Have you any thoughts on that?
I don't really think about it much. No. I don't think I'd get married too early. I'd like to have a full life first and meet people. Yeah, before you can commit yourself to a family.
What would you do if you had lots of money? About me, £2. I would buy myself a new nice house, one that's all nice and comfy.
Jackie was married last year and now lives on a new estate in Essex.
It's a nice estate.
It's all borough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
What are they like, the neighbours? You've seen a lot of them or what?
Well, sort of to say hello to them more than anything. I mean, we borrow things off of them, which is just as well.
That's what neighbours are for, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a similar colour scheme down here than upstairs, isn't it?
Yeah, but this was more by luck than just from really.
Was it like this when you come?
No, it was all white. And you can imagine the state it was in. And friends had some paint handy, so Dad and Mick just sort of used the rollers, and in the day it was done. 2 coats, wallop, that was it.
Susan is still single.
I work for a travel company. They don't deal with the public. They deal with groups and company groups. And it's sort of incentive, holidays abroad and conferences, that sort of thing, which I like because I like foreign places, and I have to do I do quite a bit of typing, but a lot of my work is involved in making bookings and dealing with hotels abroad.
I left school and started work for an Australian bank, and I'm still there. I've been there 3.5 years now. I've done various jobs within the bank. I started off as a telephonist typist, which was very interesting actually. You'd be surprised the sort of calls you get. And then I went on to work the NCR machine, which is the actual machine that posts the accounts, and counter work, dealing with clients' money and things like that.
I'm going to work in Woolworths.
Well, I'm school mobile librarian and assistant to the young people's office, which is where we are now. And I've been here since August last year.
Lynn is now married, but still lives and works in the East End.
I personally visit 8 schools with the van where they've not got position to get into a local library for class visits. I love working with children. You might remember on the last one I wanted to teach, but I didn't get to that. And seeing as it is today, I'm glad I didn't. The job situation for teachers as it is. And I think it takes a lot more patience than I've actually got. I'm much more at home here. Have I stamped yours?
Yes.
Yes? I've not stamped yours. Sleeping Beauty. What's the stamp? Do you sleep like a beauty? What'd you say? Thank you, Lorraine. I definitely make a point in reading all my new books that I get in. It's quite funny, I take loads of books home and people come and say, who are these kids' books on the table? They're mine. Oh, and they sort of shut up.
At the moment, I mean, a career's probably about the furthest thing from my mind. And I don't really know what I'm aiming for except to get the house together. And that can take years. I mean, as fast as you're replacing one thing, something else needs replacing, so it could just go on like that, I don't know.
Well, and admitting that you're not a career girl, does it mean that you're therefore looking for a family? Oh, I don't know, I suppose I am. But everything's not that cut and dried. It's not either career or family or... But it's what's in the middle. I mean, am I just going to carry on as I am now and end up on the shelf, or am I just going to get married? Could be any day, but...
I suppose Lynn is a career girl in a way, isn't she?
Yeah, she's more wrapped up in her job than I think we are.
I mean, you were all three sat there at 7 and she's gone that way and you've gone this way. Can you think of any reasons why that should be?
I think just basic personality. Lynn's always been that little bit different from us. Perhaps
She's always been more serious as far as studies are concerned.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like going to a grammar school. I just, comprehensive school, it just seemed more friendly, and at the time that is, but now,
really
different.
Grammar school's fantastic.
You say so. When I leave the school, I'm down for Heathfield and Southaven Manor. And then maybe I may want to go to a university, but I don't know which one yet.
This is Susie, the product of a private education and wealthy parents. What do you think about making this programme?
I just think it's just ridiculous. I don't see any point in doing it.
Why not?
What's the point of people sort of going into people's lives and saying, why do you like this and why don't you? I don't see any point in it.
Well, when I didn't want to do it when I was 14, I know I was very difficult because I was very anti doing it. I was pressurised into doing it by my parents. And I hated it. And I vowed I'd never do it now, but here I am.
I like to do maybe shorthand typing or something like that.
I left school when I was 16, went to Paris, went to secretarial college and got a job.
What made you decide to leave school and go to Paris?
I just wasn't interested in school and just wanted to get away.
And why did you choose Paris?
I don't know, it was my parents, really.
Did you sort of feel the need to get away? And why?
Well, I'd lived in London or Scotland and I knew people who were going out to Paris, and so I thought I'd go as well.
Look, you're comparing yourselves to Susie, who stands at the other end of the social scale. Do you think you've had the same opportunities as her?
I've had the opportunities in life that I've wanted.
I say I've had more opportunities.
Yeah, right, you've made. I mean...
I say I've had more opportunities than her in a different aspect to what she's had them. But my life, I've been able to do more or less what I wanted to do. I'm not going to say it on film, what I feel for her. But I think she's been so conditioned into what she should do and what she shouldn't do.
Yeah, but I mean... The whole thing is, you're saying, do we envy anything Susie's had? No. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Susie's had, what Susie had that I haven't had. I mean, until I know that, I can't honestly say whether I envy her.
Yeah, well, she's had money and she's been around a lot.
I've got money. Maybe not enough, but I've got it.
I have been to Honolulu with my father about 2 years ago for a couple of months, which I didn't really joy. There's nothing much out there. There's no people my own age out there. And I hated it, and I was glad to come home. Apart from that, I mean, I've been to France on holidays, and I'm going to Australia in the summer for about 2 months. Otherwise, I don't know where I'm going to go. I mean, I'd like to go and travel more.
Why?
Well, I don't think there's any point sitting in your own country. I mean, I'd like to see how people live on the other side of the world.
Tell me about the Australian trip.
Well, I'm going in July for about 2 months with my cousin. Her elder sister's married out there. And we're just going out to see what it's like. I mean, we're going to not work out there, so we're only going for 2 months. Yeah, we just feel that if we don't go now, we never will. And we've got the opportunity and the time to go now, so we're going.
How are you going to pay for it?
Save up and go.
Do you get depressed by money problems?
No, why? Why should you? If you can manage on what
you
you've
get
got.
depressed over money.
It's so easy to. But why should you? Why
when I
bother
reach
about
the
it?
18th day of the month and my mortgage is due on the 20th and there's nowhere near enough money in there, I get depressed about it, obviously. Suddenly thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen, you know? But it gets there. Don't ask me how, but you get it.
Do you think you settled down too young?
No.
I've married and we do things together. Or, you know, I mean, I go out on my own sometimes with friends from work. He does the same. I mean, what do you mean by settle down? I mean, if you think that getting married, as far as we're concerned, is a case of going to work, coming home, cook tea for hubby, going to bed, getting up, going to work, you're totally mistaken.
Did you meet enough men before you decided who to marry?
I've been married a year and a couple of months. You do think, Christ, what have I done?
See, I've still got my
And I'm
ideals.
being honest about it. And Russ thinks the same. You think, at times, you think, Christ, what have I done?
Then again,
But then
marriage just means a different thing to me. I've still got my ideals about marriage. I don't know what it's all about, obviously. So I've still got pictures of cosy evenings indoors. Yeah, I mean, it's
Cosy evenings indoors with central heating.
Yeah.
Or lack of
I've got a lot to learn about getting married.
I mean, your parents split up soon after you were 14.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of influence, effect did that have on you?
Well, obviously any child going through their parents splitting up age 14 was a very vulnerable age, and it does cut you up, but you know, you get over it. It's not, I mean, there was no point in them staying together for me, because it was worse. I mean, the rise, and it's worse. And if two people can't live together, there's no point in making yourself, even for the sake of children.
What is your attitude towards marriage for yourself?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't given it a lot of thought, because I'm very, very cynical about it. But then, you know, you get a certain amount of faith restored in it. But I mean, I got friends and their parents are happily married, and so it does put faith back into you. But me, myself, I'm very cynical about it.
Why?
Because I think it kills whatever love is. I mean, it just seems to go wrong.
What do you base that on?
Well, people I've seen, people around me. I mean, obviously not a lot of my friends are married. A lot of people who are sort of 20, 30, they all seem to be getting divorced and can't stay together. And at the moment, I just don't really believe in it.
Why do you think people can't hold marriages together?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't sort of sit down and think, analyse marriage. It's not something I've had to come up and think about, whether I was going to get married. And I've got no desire to at the moment. I think 20 is far too young.
What was the wedding like?
Our wedding? Laugh. I wanted white wedding, all trimmings. And That's what I've been satisfied with. So, very little. But being as we were going into it as a full thing, we went into it. I had an all-white wedding. All white. We were both in white and my bridesmaid was in white.
It's a funny day, actually. Because I suppose I was up somewhere around the 5 o'clock mark. And I spent all day preparing. Well, all morning, I should say. And then sitting around for about 3 hours, just waiting for something to happen. Then when it did happen, I don't remember it happening. So it was just complete confusion, really.
It's a nice day, though.
Oh, yeah. It was funny, actually. You can imagine some of the comments. And
I was pleased I was there. It seemed the right place to be. I mean, I was glad I was at a wedding. I've known her a long while, so...
Did anything happen? Anything funny?
I can't forget the cake. That was horrific, really, the cake. The wedding... What happened to the wedding cake? I mean, it was sitting right sort of in between Mick and myself. And suddenly the columns just completely gave way and it just all sort of fell into one.
It was a nice cake, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't bad, actually.
I read the Financial Times. I read the Observer and the Times. What do you like about it? Well, I usually look at the headlines and then read about them. About it. I like my newspaper because I got shares in it and I know every day what the shares are. Like you like. No, but on Mondays they don't move up, so I don't look at it.
That's one of the troubles with this sort of program. I don't really think that sort of people like us have, unless we're being seven and being rather funny, have very much to say that's very interesting. Because I mean, we don't know very much.
Well, we didn't know very much when we were 7, but we were still quite funny.
Yes, in ourselves. I agree with John. All we can do is say what we think, and if that's of interest to people, good luck to them.
Yes, exactly. I can't believe it is.
I'm awful, though.
When I leave the school, I'm going to College Court. And then I will be going to Westminster boarding school if I pass the exam. And then we think I'm going to Cambridge and Trinity Hall.
John is in his final year at Christ Church, Oxford, reading law.
I do believe parents have a right to educate their children as they think fit. And I think someone who works on the assembly line in some of these car factories, earning a huge wage, could well afford to send their children to private school if they wanted to. Just because some sorts of people perhaps don't put that as high on their priorities as, having a smart car or something. I don't think that that's any reason for abolishing public schools. I think an awful lot more people could afford to send their sons to school, to fee-paying school, but they don't choose to. I mean, that's their choice.
I'm going to Charterhouse, and after that, Trinity Hall, Cambridge.
Andrew is in his last year at Trinity College, Cambridge, reading law.
I think if people earn their money, they should have the right to spend it. And education is very important. And you can never be sure of leaving your children in any worldly goods, but at least you can be sure that once you've given them a good education, that's something that no one can take away.
What about university, Charles?
I might go to Oxford.
You're reading history at Durham University. You didn't make Oxford. What are your feelings about that?
Don't mind at all. In fact, I'm pleased I didn't, because there's very much sort of from Marlborough prep school, Marlborough, Oxbridge conveyor belt, get shoved out at the end, and when you go to Oxbridge, and it's obviously not true in all cases, but I think for the majority, they mix with the same people as they were with at school and so on.
So what attracts you to Oxford?
Well, first of all, it's such a beautiful place. There's more to it than just swatting away at one's books. I think it's very difficult not to get something out of it. There's such a sort of atmosphere of culture and sort of timelessness about the place that I think you do sort of mature an awful lot.
So what is beagling?
Beagling's well, it's really the hunting of the hare with a pack of hounds. It's done on foot. I mean, really, a lot of people seem to imagine a day's hunting with either foxhounds or beagles as sort of, unadulterated butchery. I mean, this just isn't true. I wish people had a more realistic idea of what it's about. The hounds are over there, I think. I saw them last streaming along that hedge there. Frustrating, isn't it? I'm reasonably old-fashioned about certain things, but people who sort of go on a lot about the permissive society are missing the point if they think it's the only thing that's wrong is sort of sex. I think, decreasing respect for the family as a unit, increasing dishonesty, both in business. I mean, there used to be much stronger developed ideas of commercial integrity and things that seem to be going around nowadays. Nowadays, people seem to be really sort of rather out for themselves. There's sort of, I really do think, I suppose, an invasion by the American way of life, really, which I think is a very sad thing.
Is that unstoppable, that trend, do you think?
I think it really is, unfortunately, yes.
So where does that leave your values?
Well, it leaves them with me. And with my future children, who I shall inculcate them in.
But might you not find yourself isolated?
That really doesn't matter. I mean, if I believe my principles are right, and I'm doing the right thing to bring my children up by them, it won't matter to me whether I'm living in the Middle Ages mentally. I mean, I should do what's right.
Well, when I was very small, my father always used to go skiing, and he took me with him, and we've been ever since, really.
And how young were you when you started?
Oh, about 5, on tiny little skis. It was quite frightening then.
What is the appeal of it?
Well, the sort of freedom and going in the snow in the mountains, and the feeling of speed, and getting away from people if you can.
Do you save up to come skiing, or...?
I don't, but my father does, as he pays for me.
Your parents had been divorced since 14, since you were 14.
That's right, quite recently. Yes.
Tell me about that and the influence it's had on you.
Well, not much influence, in fact, because it's happened when I'm quite old, and I'm away from home a lot anyway. It's very sad, of course, but I don't think it has had a great deal of influence. If it had happened when I was much younger, it would have had much more influence. An adverse influence, I would have thought.
Did your parents' divorce leave any lasting mark on you?
I don't know. I've seen the film at 14, so... And that's far closer to time. I would have thought it did, but... I don't talk about that anyway, so...
Why?
I think it's unfair on them. So very few parents, I think, bring up their children with the intention of belittling them or doing as little for them as possible. I think you have to assume that most parents do as much as they can, given the circumstances for their children. And obviously things could have been far worse.
Do you think it's changed your attitude to marriage, or...?
It means that because I was faced with that situation, I have an attitude which is a positive attitude, rather than, well, everybody else gets married, therefore I shall get married. My attitude would be that if one's going to have children, if you want to have children, then that's a very real reason for getting married. But if you get married, it's an agreement to actually make the thing work for 18 years or however long it is until the children have grown up. No, there's no point in sort of just sitting it out for 18 years. I mean, I thought there's nothing worse than that. It'd be better for the parents to get divorced. I think people perhaps don't make as much effort as they should have or should do to make marriages work. It's very easy for me to say so because I've never been in a position.
I mean, in what ways should people make more effort?
I think people just take too much for granted when they get married, or used to. Not now, perhaps. I don't know about you, for instance. I know my mother. I mean, she said that she was spoiled, really. And she never really realised how lucky she'd been until she'd actually been divorced.
Up to about 12. Maybe it's different with other people, but I found that you're much more attached to your parents. Once you come to about 13, 14, you're not quite so attached to them.
I think the system of having house captains is rather good, because when somebody's naughty, the house captain asks him and has a talk to him. Once I had a talk to Greville. He was in my house, and I asked Sir if he could put him out of my house because he was always getting minuses. What did Sir say?
Yes.
So Sir said that we would see about it this term.
Well, I think it's a very good system.
Have you had to speak to anyone?
Just because you're one, I suppose.
No,
you're
no,
not.
I haven't.
You're not, are you?
But I am. It's Straw Mac and Nessa. You got 3 minuses in a day. He's a pest.
If I go to the bar, I should like a reasonable amount of success. I shouldn't like to be on the breadline, which is all too common.
I'd like to be a solicitor, and also fairly successful.
I only know what I don't want, and that's a nuclear family in a semi-detached in Brentford.
Do you three see yourselves staying in England, living in England, making your careers in England?
Yes.
Well, the trouble is, law is not really very exportable, from my point of view, anyway. And I quite like England.
Yes, I can't say I really approve very much of the sort of people who emigrate. I mean, it's too easy for people who... This is where I would agree with you about people who have had opportunities. I do think they've got a corresponding duty to sort of put back. You know, people who've had things going well for them really ought to stay and sort of help the country out when it's, you know, things aren't going very well. I don't believe in all this pulling one's money out. But that's a moral sort of point of view. I do believe people have the right to live where they like and also to move their assets around. But on a moral level, I do very strongly feel that people shouldn't quit.
Is that why you don't want to leave?
Yeah. And also, I can't imagine anywhere so nice as England.
Probably stay in England for the reasons that John put forward. I think one has a moral duty. Sounds terrible, but yeah, it's up to one certainly to make an attempt to put something back in whatever it is that you're doing in England, having used the various facilities that are put out for you by the state.
I think the more you've had out of the country, the more privileges you're born with, the greater your duty is.
We chose 2 boys from a children's home in Middlesex. Paul?
Say you had a wife, say you had to eat what they cooked you, and say I don't like greens, well I don't, and say she said you have to eat what you give, so I don't like greens, say she gives me greens, and that's it.
Well, as far as I know, my mother and father they separated originally, I think. They eventually got divorced. I went to the boarding school for 1 year and then we immigrated to Australia. My father got remarried.
How did you get on with your stepmom?
Pretty well, but like I said before, I mean, I'm not just not close, I'm not really close to my father either.
Paul left the children's home when he was 8. Our other boy stayed until he was 13, Simon. Was it difficult moving from the home back to live with your mother? But you're still here after 8 years now.
Yeah. Well, I find it's comfortable. See, I can get on well with my mother sometimes. Well, that's good because a lot of young children can't get on with their parents at all at this time of their life. But I get on pretty well with my mum now. We talk very well with each other, but it's sometimes not quite as mother and son, sort of more like friends.
What sort of life does your mother have?
It always seems hard. I mean, she's she's always been nervous. Not all the time, but she has periods of depression or deep depression or whatever they call it. It sort of makes me think, well, what happened there?
What effect has that had on you, do you think?
Well, it's made me very sort of protective towards her. I feel I've got to help her all the time. They say, where's your father then? You know, when your mum's out at work, instead of your father. And I just tell them I ain't got one.
What effect has that had on you?
Well, I don't think it's had any effect on me, because what you don't have, you don't miss. And 20 years ago, when I was born, you know, an illegitimate child, you know, that's something that's only whispered about. People, you know, feel strongly about it in those days, but nowadays it's not a serious matter. The serious point is whether you stay with somebody or you leave them.
We took Paul and Simon round the buildings which were once the children's home.
I remember this part, but I've never walked down it. It was out of bounds. The only place I saw is from out the windows and that. That was Hospital Juniors. That's where we used to be. Really? Yeah.
I don't like the big boys hitting us and the monitors up in the washroom sending us out when there's no talking. No, I wasn't talking today, and Brown sent me out for nothing.
Remember the tiles? Yeah, I remember when they were cleaner.
Remember the two officers?
Yeah, doctors and the nurses. Something's gone.
The seats.
Yeah, the seats. The smell's gone. Remember Midgley?
Yeah.
He was a real bastard. I remember one night, I forget what I actually did, but he made me clean all the shoes in the house, you know. It was about 50 pair of shoes and it took about 2 hours or something.
Well, I feel like bundling when there's already a fight.
Ah, do you remember Froggy Page?
No.
It was the tailor. I remember him.
Taylor?
Yeah, he was there for 37 years or something. Bent over backwards or bent over forwards or something.
The golf course.
Yeah.
You used to think about running away over that, but you're too scared.
That's where the headmaster's son used to shoot the squirrels off the trees.
Yeah. Do you remember the boy that, in the senior part, where my brother was, he was sleeping one time and he went out that second-storey window.
Oh, the sleepwalker. Weaver, Robert Weaver.
Yeah, we all had to pray for him.
Yeah. Everybody said he had a steel plate in his head.
Yeah.
How did you find Simon after you haven't seen him for 14 years?
Well, I didn't recognise him at all, but I think we got along really well. I don't know what he'd say to that, but I found him very likeable. He's the sort of person if I could, I'd like to do something for them, you know, because I feel I've got, no offence to him, but I feel I've got more than him. It's just that it seems to me things have fallen into line there, you know, for me. Everything's started to come good. I've started to enjoy life. You know, I've started to think, well, you know, I'm not a no-hoper. Because I think that's what I've always thought about myself. I know I didn't have any confidence in myself. Despite what I said when I was 14. I've always lacked confidence. I still do to a certain extent, but nothing like I did, say, when I was 14. The job I'm in, bricklaying, I enjoy it and it interests me. And I'm very content at work. In June last year, I was made a junior partner. That was through circumstances, but I look at it this way, I'm not great at bricklaying, right, but if I wasn't good enough and my boss didn't think I was good enough, he would have never have made me a junior partner. As for the job, you know, you build a house and you turn around and look at it and you say, oh, well, I did that. It's better than sort of having a whole row of figures. It's substance, you know, there's something there.
Simon works in the freezer room of a meat company near his home in Middlesex.
My job's running away from me.
You do jobs which I suppose are fairly routine and dull. What keeps you going during them?
Oh, it's definitely the people there. You work up a kind of team spirit there. You know, I mean, you can think about all the work you've got to do in the morning. You just don't want to go. But once you get there, it's all generally, I was going to say messing around, but I won't say that. Managers might see it. Sort of joking about. They make you feel you want to get the work done.
Try and get some. Just ask for them.
I mean, we always say, when we come out of the chiller, we don't want to go back in. But when we get back in, we get on with it, you know.
So are you a good timekeeper?
Depends. Usually I try to get to work early, but I have periods of, I just, you know, sod it. If I get there, I get there. But I think the hardest thing is to get up in the morning. I mean, for me, it takes a great deal out of me. I mean,
Would you never feel you should be doing better jobs than these? Aren't you worth more than this?
No, I haven't really. I suppose I just like hard work. I don't know. But it's never really sort of worried me. I suppose it should, but it just hasn't.
And how do you see the future as far as work goes?
Well, I know I can't stay at Wolves forever. I mean, it's just not me. I couldn't stay there for that long. My mind would go dead. But I think if I really wanted to, I could learn a trade, even now. You know, if I really felt that I ought to get out and do something different, I could learn a trade if I wanted to.
And what would you like to be doing, say, in 7 years?
Well, I couldn't really say. I haven't thought 1 year ahead yet. I think I'm still sort of young in my head. I don't really sort of take things seriously.
All I want out of life is to be happy, and when I say happy, I want to be happily married as well. Because I can't say I don't want to get married, because I think I do. But I want to be happily married, you know, and therefore I want to make sure, I think.
How would you define happiness? What is it?
Well, basically, to me, it's the will to live, you know. I mean, now, I literally love life. I love people. I mean, I think before I didn't. I mean, when I was 14, I said, I forgot what the question was, but I said something about I want to be alone. And when I said that, I know even now, I meant that. You know, if someone dropped me out in the Sahara Desert, I probably would have been happy more or less, if you get the point. Whereas I'm not like that now. I just want to be around people. I don't like doing things by myself. And my happiness to me is a love for life and a love for people. You know?
I think I admire people with great determination. You know, like people who just come up from nothing. They build up their life from absolutely nothing. I could say Muhammad Ali, because he absolutely came from nothing. I mean, you can't agree with everything he says, but his word goes down now. He's the biggest thing in sport. He's one of the biggest things in life. I mean, people like him.
When you look at yourself, what do you think that your kind of weaknesses and strengths are?
I think my main weakness is I don't really take a grip of life. I don't really look... I always look deeply into it, but it's just... It seems to be just a sort of hobby with me. I look at everything and I criticise it and I work everything out, but after that I just sort of leave it.
I find it hard to express emotion most of the time. Although I'm getting on top of that more now, you know. I mean, just a simple thing to say to sort of Susan, you know, I love you, something like that. I mean, I can tell you about it, but I really haven't been able to say it freely to Sue, you know. I suppose that's a weakness, you know.
Do you have a dream?
A dream? Not so much a dream, but I know if I ever wanted to get on, I could do it. I mean, I always feel that I've got something inside me that would make me move. But I think what it is really, I'm just waiting for an excuse to use it. You know, at the moment, I feel okay just getting on with life, just sort of keeping up. But I know if I really wanted to, I could get on. Yeah, I only take a little spark in me to do it.
Is it important to fight? Yes.
Would everybody please sit round now? Get on with their work. I don't want to see any backs to me. Shouldn't be anybody turning round. Tony, do you hear as well? Get on with your work in front. Tony, don't turn round again.
I want to be a jockey when I grow up. Yeah, I want to be a jockey when I grow up.
Tony left his East End secondary modern school at 15 and became an apprentice at Tommy Gosling's racing stables in Epsom.
This is a photo finish when I rode at Newbury. I mean, I'm the one with the white cap. I was beating a length and a half, a third, and I had a photo finish. So I took it out of the box and kept it as a souvenir.
Have you got any other pictures of you as a jockey?
Yeah, I've got a lot of them.
Show me that
one when I was that one when I was Windsor. That was my last ride on the old horse, Shadow Deef. That was. He was a lovely old horse. I'll never forget him.
How many rides did you have?
Only 3.
Why was that?
Well, obviously, if I was good enough, I would have had more. That was the first day I've ever put myself in silks. That was my first ride ever.
What did it feel like?
It felt like there's no words that can explain how you feel. That one was when I was going to the parade ring. They're not very good. My brother, I mean, he's not no good at taking photos. He's no Luke Snowden.
But describe the feeling, go on.
Describe, well, I mean, Frankie Durr, right, he was told to look after me, so I went in there, I said, I don't know, my first ride. And he said, all right, don't worry, like, your governor has told me to look after you. And so I was changing in my silks, and I felt good, you know, I could see all the faces, but like, I think, when I look on the paper, I think sort of Jeff Lewis, Frankie Durr, and I thought myself, all of a sudden I'm in the same room getting changed. Then I walked in the parade ring, and all my family's there, and they were going, go on, Tony, like, oh, and the governor come over and he said, you've got to do this to the horse, you hold him back, you go half pace, keep your hands down, keep him in the rails. And I'm going, yeah, like nod. Then all of a sudden, when he said, jockeys, please man, and the bell went ding ding, and my heart just sunk, because I thought myself, here I was always yesterday, sort of nobody, here I am today, I'm king, like, I felt king for one day, or for 10 minutes.
Do you regret not making it?
Well, I would have given my right arm at the time to become a jockey, but now, well, I wasn't good enough. It's easy as that.
What will you do if you don't make it as a jockey?
I don't know. If I knew I couldn't be one, I'd get out of the game. Wouldn't bother.
Well, what do you think you would do then?
Learn on taxis. Taxi driver.
I will be a cab driver. Well, how can I fail? I've got one brother, taxi driver, pulling me, and the other brother pushing me, so I've got to make it. I will be a cab driver, and I know I will. And I'm going to prove every person who think I can't be a cab driver wrong. I'm going to get that badge and I'm going to put it right in their face, just to tell them how wrong they can be, and how underestimated I am.
Doing the taxi knowledge means Tony going out on his motorbike every day and learning the hundreds of routes around the streets of London.
But I can sort of just get up, go on my bike, do 2 runs, come home, call them over, then boom, I'm done my day's work, and then I go out here earn my money. Hackney Wick, it's my sort of living, I can say, until the time I'm a cab driver. But I mean, my freedom's there, and that is the main thing what I want.
Tony spends his spare time at Hackney Wick Greyhound Stadium placing bets for the punters.
55 to 20, Boris.
55 to 20, Boris.
Oh, the one cool the dog. 4.5 4.5 40.
Oh, sunshine, talk to the dog.
Take it. If your father gambles, you always look upon how he gambles. I try my luck, see what he does. And I took it from there, it's sort of in you. Some people drink and they can't get out of drinking. Some people smoke and they can't stop smoking. Well, I think I'm firmly on the ground as a gambler. I know you can't win gambling, putting money on dogs and horses. I know that. But if you put other people's money on, you can't lose.
What do they call you here?
I reckon a pest, something like that. Because I'm always running and sort of doing everything what I shouldn't be doing. I mean, I thought I was going to get barred one day because I used to... I don't mean to make a nuisance of myself. I mean, it's for the other patrons of the place. I mean, they wouldn't want to see a little boy nipping between the feet, running, putting a bet on here for a face. You understand? They think, God, what's he doing? Is he mad? I mean, I walk up there and I order the teas. There could be 8 people in front of me. I just go, can I have a tea, please? Tea, please, 5 times. Tea, please, tea, please. And they've got to serve me before them to get rid of me. You understand? So that's how you got to do it. Just keep on and on, and they go, oh, drive me mad here, I'll get rid of him. That's easy as that. That's the way to get on in life. Just be annoyance all the time to a person, and they go, oh, just drive me mad, get him away from me. And they do more or less, they give you the first option. So I'll fire them out.
You're very short. Has that had much trouble?
Well, when a bird said to me the other day, she said, ain't you small? So I said, but you're ugly, at least I can grow. And I said, what can they say to that? They can't say nothing, can they? So a thing like that, or example, she said to me, ain't you small? So I looked at her tits and she was only about 30. I said, but you're not too big either, so we're both in the same way.
Have you got a girlfriend?
Nope.
Would you like to have a girlfriend?
Nope.
You understand 4 Fs? Find them, feed them, and forget them. But with the other F, I'll let you use your own discrimination. I mean, this one, I tried to do the 3 Fs, but I couldn't forget her. I'd done the 3 Fs, and I couldn't forget her. It sounds silly, but that's the only way I can put it.
Tell me about the family. I mean, are you fairly closely knit?
Well, I love them all. There's not one I don't love more than other than my mum, obviously. But your mum is the root of the sort of tree. You love your mum best.
So what do you like about living in the East End?
It's very sort of real. There's nothing false. Only the police. I'm firmly placed, and there's no way I can see getting out. I wouldn't want to get out, really. It's very hard to make it in the East End because the roots are firmly stuck in the ground. And you've got to have a big hard pull to get them out.
So are there many villains in the East End?
There has been in the time, I suppose. Like, obviously, the originals were the Cray twins. We're in Valence Road now. As it goes, they used to live here in a house they used to call Fort Valence. It was that hard to get into, I expect.
Do you have much to do with villains?
I can't say I have much to do. I wouldn't say I'm a villain myself. I don't go thieving or I don't do anybody any harm, fighting-wise. I'm trying to say that. Wherever you go, there's villains, and whether you mix with them or not, I mean, it's up to you.
Does it worry you, the possibility of becoming one of them?
How can I become a villain? If it's not in there, if it's not born in you, you won't become one.
Don't you think you're going to regret not having education?
Where does that come into it? It doesn't come into it in my mind. Education is just a thing to say my son is higher than him or my son had a better background than him. I mean, I'm as good or even better than most of them people, especially on this programme. I mean, I'm one of the tail enders. You think, oh, the East End boy, you know, and he ain't got no good education. But all of a sudden, the East End boy's got a car, motorbike, and he goes to Spain every year and whatever. And have I worked for it? No, I'm here putting bets on. You think, how does he do it? And there's a boy who is eating or whatever. He's studying to be a professor. He's making up the things. Where's the education? There's no education in this world. It's just one big rat race, and you've got to kill your man next year to get in front of him.
What do you think about trade unions and things like that?
I don't know. I don't know enough to know about them. if you understand me. I mean, I'm not a politician, so let them worry about what's coming for the next day. All I understand is dogs' prices, girls, knowledge, road, streets, squares, and mum and dad and love. That's all I understand, that's all I want to understand. Yeah? Go on, Free, chase it. Go on, boy. Go on, Free, inside. On the out, Free. It's checking everywhere, Belle.
Well, I'll go into Africa and try and teach people who are not civilised to be more or less good.
No, I don't want to be a missionary because I just can't talk about it to people. You know, I'm interested in it myself, but I wouldn't be very good at it at all. And I wouldn't enjoy it.
Well, why wouldn't you be good at it?
Well, I'm just not very good at, anyway, standing up in front of people and making a speech or anything like that, but I'd like to keep it private, you know.
Well, is it possible you might ever think of going to the church?
It is possible. I've never said no, definitely. But I won't be doing it after I go to university. I mean, it's just possible in 10 years' time, I suppose, but...
What would draw you to the church?
I don't know. It wouldn't be dissatisfaction with whatever I'm doing at the moment. In a way, if whatever I was doing very successfully, then that would be a better reason for going into the church, really. Or at least if I did go into the church, it meant I was giving up something. But I think the wrong reasons are if you are dissatisfied with what you're doing, in the general sense of doing a job badly or a failure in some sort of way.
Bruce is in his final year at University College, Oxford, reading mathematics.
Class coefficient. And by Eisenstein, you can show that this is irreducible. Then you do a transformation on this polynomial x equal to t plus 2, which you find is t cubed plus 7t squared plus 14t plus 7. And you observe that 7, which is a prime, divides the coefficients of t squared, t and the constant, not t cubed. And 7 squared doesn't divide the constant term. So by Eisenstein, this is irreducible. So therefore 2 cos 2 pi by 7 is of degree 3. And that length isn't constructible from the corollary of our original theorem. So therefore the septuagint is not constructible.
Good, that's a nice way of doing it, particularly using Eisenstein down here. His test is very powerful.
Yes.
He's an interesting mathematician.
What sort of job are you going to try for?
Well, there was one job which I'd quite like to make maps, really. I mean, it's a nice sort of outdoor life, and you go to, I mean, you travel around, and but there are very few jobs like that going. I'm sort of qualified a general maths or science degree would do, or geography degree, but I think I've probably missed it this time round, and but that's only. Perhaps I won't like making maps. It's something that I think I would do. Melbourne probably had a great influence on me in a way. I mean, I was absolutely shocked rigid when I went to my prep school and found people thought of doing things wrong. I never really upset anyone or questioned authority or misbehaved in any of my 2 later schools, which may seem an ideal sort of thing, but I think it's probably healthy to question why you have to do certain things, which I never did.
Bruce was a boarder at this pre-preparatory school from the age of 5.
Squad left foot inward, play! Squad breathing!
Well, it is mainly this lack of responsibility for doing jobs given to me. People will say, why haven't you done this? Look, you've upset us. I was secretary of
Bridge Society, Chess Society, Cricket Society, Scottish Dancing Society, and I didn't do anything for any of them, and they were all very angry. And I spent last summer term in total seclusion. I saw maybe half a dozen people all term in my room, darting across quads. People would say, I saw Baldwin today, and they'd say, no, really? It was awful, really.
My heart's desire is to see my daddy, who's 6,000 miles away.
You know, I've been getting on well with my stepfather. And I like to see my father occasionally. And he does come over from Rhodesia.
What effect has the fact, that you've seen very little of your father had on you?
Nothing really. It's something I regret that I didn't really get to know him better at all. We're both very bad writers. I'm probably worse than him. And that's something I regret, is not having just a regular correspondence. Because I think he's an interesting man, actually. And he probably regrets it as well.
Well, what do you think about your own upbringing? I mean, what have been the strongest influences on that?
Probably to not let down my mother, really, because she's worked awfully hard to get me through school. And I haven't let her down yet. Then, as far as not having my mother's divorce, I don't think that really has the effect that people imagine it to have. I mean, I always have got on well with my stepfather and with my half-sister, so in that sense I've had a family life.
I'd help people if I had a chance. By, say, giving a little bit of money to charity or sponsoring things or things like that.
Well, I took 9 months off between school and university, and there I taught at a school and worked in the Banbury sewage works for 2 months.
What sort of school was it?
Well, I never like admitting this, but it was a handicap school. It seems to present me as wanting to do these things. I suppose in a way I do, and I do get some satisfaction from doing it, but I could so easily have done something else. I mean, it was just almost an accident that I ended up at the spastic school. And I'm glad I did it, because I enjoyed it, not for its, I suppose, slightly charitable nature of the work, but the people I met, work, was quite good.
Why are you frightened of presenting this image of yourself? It's possibly because I never want to feel too proud, really. I mean, it's dangerous for a start, and it's so easy. And it doesn't work in a way, because, all right, I can try and pretend to be humble, but that's being proud in just the same sort of way. I find it a very difficult thing to avoid pride. Tell me, are you interested in politics at all? Not as much as I was. I am about the only socialist in my village, and I go into the pub and sort of expect to stand up and defend all socialist policies. Sort of, this is the village socialist, no, village idiot, sorry. You agree with all this immigration, so I stand up and defend it, and it's awfully hard work there. I think I'm going to give that up. So where do you stand politically now, then? If you're giving up well, I'm still socialist, but not as energetically as I was, I suppose. I mean, what do you think about the way England's been run at the moment? Well, I'm glad the socialists are in power, because
elusive thing called freedom is sort of rearing its head, and the Conservatives are pushing it forward. And this argument, I thought this argument was smashed at the early years of this century, but it seems to be coming back, and it really is exceptionally dangerous, because the more you try and defend freedom, you allow everybody to do exactly what they like within limits, then the less you have. I mean, there's no freedom in being living in a slum. There's no, I mean, it's all right, you can say the chap can do whatever he wants, he can get a better job or anything, but that's just not the case. The more you defend freedom, the less you have it.
Well, my girlfriend is in Africa, and I don't think I'll have another chance of seeing her again.
Have you got any girlfriend?
No, not yet. I'm sure it will come, but not yet.
What is your attitude to sex?
Well, it's not quite the normal attitude to anti-sex. It's more, I mean, I, as it were, burnt my fingers a little, and I don't feel as though I'm missing anything now. I don't feel the need for it, and I'm quite happy at not feeling the need for it, really. I mean, I do think a lot of people think too much about it.
What happened when you burnt your finger?
I'd rather not talk about it, really. Well, no, but I don't really mean that. I mean, I don't mean that I don't want to talk about it. Just that I need quite a long time to think about it, really.
Why?
Well, in the end, I decided that the effect, the pleasure, or just didn't seem worth it, really. Didn't seem worth see, I think there are two different sorts. There's sort of casual sex, and then there's sex in love and marriage. And casual sex is not, I don't think it's quite as widespread as people believed, because if both the people treat it as casual sex, then I think it's all right. But if you're sort of looking for, I know this may seem awfully silly, but if you're looking for casual sex but you don't want to treat it as such, then it doesn't seem to be worth the lies, I don't know, the sort of effort.
Is this what happened
yes.
to you?
I suppose in a way, yes.
Have you been in love?
No. And I think I'll probably have to wait for that, really.
International wrestling. Yeah, that's all right. Summertime though. Yeah, it's only when we can go on the grass.
Neil went to a comprehensive school in Liverpool, got 4 A-levels, then walked out of Aberdeen University after 1 term, and is now doing casual labour in London.
I came to London, I think, because I wanted to start a new life, really. I'd left the university in Aberdeen at the end of 1975, and I became conscious of the fact that I was drifting around, which I suppose I'm still doing here, but at least I took the decision to move myself. And I think possibly there's more challenge in London than there ever could be in Aberdeen.
Peter, Neil's school friend from Liverpool, is now in his last year at London University, reading history.
It was obviously a big step. It was exciting more than anything. I mean, that sounds corny, but it was.
Do you remember the day you left Liverpool?
Yeah, very well. It was pouring down with rain, I remember that. Just the traditional send-off from Lime Street. My mum and dad were there. A couple of mates turned up at the last minute in the school to see me.
Catch a girl and kiss a girl. Yeah.
And what happens then?
Well, the girls are all screaming. Yeah, and when we catch them, we kiss them.
We're interested in contrast with you and Neil.
Yeah.
Were you aware of differences in home background at the time when you were...
Sure, yeah. I mean, both Neil's parents are teachers, as you know. And that's got to be a hell of a difference for a start. I mean, I'm not knocking them for a minute, they're very nice people. But there's obviously going to be some sort of academic type atmosphere in the house, which I did notice one or two times. But I think Neil, whether by design or whether just the situation he was in, was obviously going to be under more pressure.
I came to London and I contacted an agency for squatters, and they were able to give me the address of somebody who was able to help people who were looking for accommodation in the London area. And by a process of chasing people around, I eventually managed to find this place here. I wouldn't squat in a place which I knew to be owned by somebody else. I wouldn't, certainly, because I know if I had a place of my own and found somebody squatting in it, I'd be disgusted. But this place was empty, and I was simply offered a place to live here and was very grateful for it. And I think in questions of squatting, a bit of humanity is more important than vague rules about who can live where.
I like the way you tax him.
In contrast, Peter lives in a flat in North London, sharing with 3 other students.
There'd been 3 guys living here originally, and one of them left to get engaged, and eventually married. And the flat was meant for 4 in the first place. So Dave and Trev asked Ian and I if we'd like to move in. Of course we did, because we'd been searching for a flat for some months. So we jumped at the opportunity really.
I've got my own room. I can cook whenever I like. I haven't got a landlady to tell me what time to come in. I've got my own front door key. And to tell the truth, it's a lot better than a lot of accommodation I've had over the last 18 months or so. It could be a bit warmer, it's a bit chilly, but it's perfectly satisfactory for the time being.
Because of obvious restrictions, you know, like you've got to cook for yourself, you've got to think for yourself a lot more. But it's certainly not exhausting or wearing I thought it might be. I mean, you know, according to it may sound it's a challenge or something.
You're going to have to split 2 subjects from 3.
Well, once Carolyn Eppert said she loved me. And I'm going to marry her when I grow up.
Oh, I hate her. She's always getting bad-tempered and cross with me.
Is she?
Yeah, she says, Neil Hughes, move your desk forward. And when I put it back, she said, Neil Hughes, take your chair forward. And she just gets into very cross with me like that.
Tell me about the period in your life when you went to university and what happened.
It was a very short period. I was only at university. Well, I was only taking university seriously for a matter of a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. Maybe I went to the wrong university, or maybe university life didn't suit me. Either way, I felt a very great need to get out of the system.
Well, this is my final year, so I'm not in college that much. I don't have to be. So what I'm expected to do is to be laying out revision timetables at home and working like a slave, which I'm not at the moment, but I will be soon.
I did make an application to Oxford, but I didn't get in, and well, I think that's in the past now, and I don't know whether I would have been any happier at Oxford. It always had been a dream to get into Oxford, I think, because people had encouraged me and because I knew famous people having been to Oxford, and I'd read memoirs written by famous people, things such as Brideshead Revisited, which was a great favourite. But these, I suppose, are, well, they were dreams of which I had while I was at school, and I have to just get over the fact that I didn't get into Oxford, probably because I didn't approach the thing in the right way.
Are you bitter about it?
I was very, very bitter at the time. Maybe I still am, but I tried to get over it.
I think once I can get myself going, I can work solid, yeah. But it's the motive, which is very hard to acquire when you're at the flat most of the time. It's hard to sort of look ahead to next June and think of those exams. But I dare say I'll do it, get the average type degree, you know. I'm not worried.
I mean, is it a problem to you motivating yourself, generally?
Yeah, it can be. I can look back in the day and think, you know, hell, I wasted that. Although I might have enjoyed it at the time.
What sort of influence did your parents have on you?
Well, they made me believe in God from the start, which I certainly wouldn't... I don't know even now whether I do believe in God or not. I've thought an awful lot about it, actually, and I still don't know. But still, this was absolutely certain. If one was to survive in the world, one had to believe in God. This was something which was taught to me. Always think of other people first before yourself, to a ridiculous, neurotic degree, which I think affected me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is, I suppose, is basic Christianity. The sort of, if somebody slaps you on one cheek, let them do it on the other, almost literally taken, which gave me a few shocks when I tried to put it into practice.
In what way?
I don't think, well, to be honest, to go back to that question, I don't think I was really taught any sort of policy of living at all by my parents. This is probably the biggest mistake. That I was just left to fend for myself in a world which they seemed completely oblivious of. And I found that even when I tried to discuss problems which were facing me in school, my parents didn't seem to be aware of the nature of the problem.
Were they ambitious for you?
Yeah, but along set lines which they had planned. I think they've often said to me that they had seen me even from when I was very young in a certain type of career, and possibly they'd never even thought that anything else was vaguely possible. They probably imagined I would be maybe a university lecturer or a bank manager or something like this. Something, some kind of indoor work which was which involved writing and reading and this sort of thing, because they didn't take account of the other side of my personality. But
and what sort
I
of
don't know I wonder how many parents really think of their children as individual human beings.
What are your feelings about them now, your parents?
I'm glad they're there, because if I ever become homeless again, I will be able to go back and live with them. They wouldn't object to this. I'm capable of getting on with my parents perfectly well if they are willing to let me live as another adult in their house, and appreciate that I'm living my own way of life, and that I am living there because I can't think of anything else to do with myself.
I mean, what do they think of what you're doing now?
They accept it. I think now they do accept the type of person I am, and they see this as just as simply my attempting to add more experience to my life, which satisfies me.
Are they worried about you?
Probably, yes. But no more worried now than they were when I first left the university. That was probably the time at which they were most worried. And we have, in fact, managed to discuss a lot of personal things which I felt at one time I'd never be able to discuss. And therefore, as I say, it is possible for me to live for a few weeks, even for a month or so at home, without there being too much friction.
So are you under pressure to get a job, to think of what you're going to do when you leave in June?
Yeah, I suspect they am from the parents. They keep dropping hints, which is only fair, you know, I can understand their feeling. I mean, obviously I've got to get a job. I don't want to laze around in the dole for months and months. I'm going to go mad. I just can't see what I'll be doing in 9-10 months' time then.
Does that depress you or does that excite you?
No, it certainly doesn't depress me. Perhaps it does excite me in a way, yeah. Something will turn up, and something of that nature, you know. But obviously you've got to think realistically about doing something. I mean, I might be living in cloud cuckoo land, you know. Sort of, Mum and Dad might say, no, son, that's not life. You don't get a job you like. And I'd like to think I could.
Well, we pretend we've got swords, and we make the noises of the swords fighting, and when somebody stabs us, we go, ah!
What goes through your mind when you look at saw those two films when you were 7, bright and perky and...
I find it hard to believe that I was ever like that, but there's the evidence. I wonder why I was like that. I wonder what it was inside me that made me like that. And I can see even at 14 that I was beginning to get more subdued and I was putting a lot more thought into what I was saying, to a ridiculous degree. And probably when I was 7, I don't know, I lived in a wonderful world where everything was sensation and I could be happy like this, I could be miserable the next minute. And I didn't have to plan for the future. I didn't have to worry about having friends and all this sort of thing, because everything was so mapped out for me. I don't know what sort of stumbling blocks should be put in a child's way to get him used to what sort of stumbling blocks should be put in a child's way to get him used to living in the outside world. Because I think maybe this is something that was wrong in my upbringing. I didn't have enough obstacles to get over, to toughen myself up against. I was unprepared for things as they were, but looking back, even now, I couldn't think of what might have been done, and I certainly wouldn't start writing educational theory about this, because I know how personal a thing it is, and it probably wouldn't work in anybody else's case.
Would you like to be 7 again?
No, because I'd know that I had to be 21 again.
And then I moved up to a comprehensive school. I found it much bigger, of course, and I found it hard to settle into at first. But now I've been here a few years, I know my way around, and it's a very good idea to have competition. Otherwise you might start to relax, really, and not so try hard enough.
Yes, I was, at that age I was very conscious of having to struggle, because I suppose what parents and teachers were saying. Well, they said, you've got a brain, you must put all your effort into schoolwork. Well, what else could they have said? I would have probably been just as angry, looking back, if they'd never encouraged my intellectual efforts at all.
When I get married, I don't want to have any children, because they are always doing naughty things and making the whole house untidy.
Do you have any great ambition, any dream?
I suppose yes, well, I would like to be somebody in a position of importance, and I've always thought this. But I don't think I'm the right sort of person to carry the responsibility for whatever it is. I always thought, well, I'd love to be, possibly even love to be in politics or something like this. But I suppose that I'd probably find that just as tedious as all the other jobs I've done. So.
What do you want out of life?
The satisfaction of knowing that I've left some sort of imprint, rather than just lived out my life. That's how it's going to sound like an epitaph. I've left a memory with some people, you know. Not that this guy worked for so-and-so, made a fair bit of money, a good house, died. I'd like to think I've done something, but then and again it must be like a drop in the ocean, I suppose. I mean, who's going to remember me in 100 years' time? So is it that important? You'll live out your life? But I would like to think I'm going to do something with it. Something positive.
Do you and Peter have the same values?
I think we both value happiness and stability. I think most people do.
But you've kicked against the stability that's...
I don't think I ever had any stability, to be quite honest. I can't think of any time in my life when I ever did. I don't think I've been kicking against anything. I think I've been kicking in mid-air the whole of my life.
It's only one more.
What do they think about each other? And how would they act together? To find out, we invited them all to one big party and joined in.
Yes, but they were a bit too tough for my liking. So they hit me right in the back and I've still got a pain there. The Prussians. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. They're nuts. Just have to touch them. Well, some of them were rather dirty.
What do you think about
I played them with them quite naturally. I think they were rather nice, really.
What do you think about rich people?
Well, not much.
Tell me that.
Well, they think they can do everything without you doing it as well. And they think just because they're rich, they have to have people like they have to do all their work and stuff. What would you do if you had lots of money? About me, £2. Me, easy. I would help the poor. Yeah, because the poor, if you don't help them, they sort of die soon, wouldn't they? And every time we have a harvest festival, we send them food to them. Once these two, Susan and Janet Henson went round giving it out with Mr. Floyd. I don't think much of the accents. Neither do I. Neither do I. But it doesn't prevent me liking them.
You ever think to yourself, well, jump out of that suit, come in the East End, throw the books in the corner and do it, what you have to do.
I certainly throw the books in the corner.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
What are you going to do anyway? I've really no idea. The idea of just living somewhere, working for a living, is horrifying, really. I mean, being a student is very easy. I just postponed the decision, really, by going to university.
Oh, looks like being a student's easy. That's why I left school.
Who is to say what a 7-year-old child is? I don't think there's any way you can do it. So a 7-year-old child could seem to be one thing, and you could always argue that the end product was produced by what he actually was, rather than what he seemed to be.
Do you normally use the taser or bookend?
No, bookmaker, but
I always frighten they'll clear off.
What?
I always frighten they'll clear off
no,
if they're going to bad off.
They're not like that. They can always get hold of money.
What fears do you have for the future?
Well, certainly the idea of, as I was saying before, getting into a job and sort of getting stuck in it, and that's it, without knowing why you're doing it. But I would think now that this is the time where I could think about something like that and make sure it doesn't happen.
I really don't see how one's life can be a failure, in that if I became a journalist and got sacked at 30, it's probably because I'd grown out of it, or I'd changed, so I was no longer suitable, so therefore I'd find something else which I'd find, I enjoyed and which my talents were suited to.
I have never suffered at all. Never been driven to despair or tears or... I didn't have any of the others.
My strength is being able to keep going, really. And my weakness is not being able to take any positive course of action.
I suppose that I tend to behave rather after the fashion of the people I'm with, and this can, in some circumstances, I think that can be quite a weakness sometimes. Sometimes I wish I didn't, because I occasionally sort of look at myself and think, Christ, you're a bloody fool, what are you doing now? And that sometimes disturbs me.
We had a teacher at school that his favourite ploy was all you girls want to do is walk out, get married, have babies and push a pram down the street with a fag hanging outside your mouth.
God, if ever since I'd resent it, it'd be that one.
Yeah. There's only one ambition, and really, I want a baby son, and if I see my baby son, that is my ambition fulfilled. No one knows that, only you now.
Well, to me it is a dream to be totally happy. I mean, I don't think you can expect that, but
What happens if you don't make that? If you don't ever find them?
God
how will
knows.
you cope?
I don't know. It'd be hard to say, you know. You could, I mean, the human mind's very strong and it can be very weak. And so you could crack up from it and you could just live your life out from day to day and you could get over it, sort of thing, you know, I think. Well, not get over it, but you'd cope with it, I think. But what I do, I just don't know. I mean, I want to be happy, and my dream's all for happiness, sort of thing. So basically that's what I want out of life.
I always leave something inside me. I always leave a bit behind. I always hold back a bit, you know, with everything I do. Just to sort of, something to fall back on. I've always got something else to sort of look on if anything goes wrong anywhere.
What is that something you hold back?
I think it's a part of my heart.
What do you want most out of life?
To be happy and get on with life. I mean, I don't want to just sit back and let it always pass. I mean, you don't know how long you've got your life for. I mean, you know, you could be run over by a bus tomorrow, so you've got to make the most of it while you've got it.
Simply to be able to wake up in the morning and feel that this day was going to be worthwhile. Which is what I don't feel at the moment.
At the end of their very special day in London, after their trip to the zoo and the party, we took our children to an adventure playground, where they could do just what they liked. Those from the children's home set about building a house.
The houses in Australia, the average sort of living there, it would do me fine. I mean, it's terrific.
I often say I'm saving to settle down with Yvonne. And then I think to myself, I might buy a car instead.
There's Nicholas.
You know, you have to run fast to stay where you are. To go forward, you have to run very fast indeed, or whatever the quote is. And, you know, I'll probably feel that, you know, I'm actually achieving nothing.
And Tony.
I don't want to change, because if I change, it proves the other Tony Walker was all fake.
Andrew?
After I've qualified as a solicitor, then I'll have to rethink. And I don't know at all what will happen after that.
And Bruce?
It all springs from loving God and Christ, I suppose. That you try and do that as best as possible and let that lead your actions in life.
John?
I'd quite like to get into politics, but I mean, that's you know, easier said than done.
Susie?
I mean, when you're a child, you always think how nice it would be to be grown up and independent and things. I mean, there are times when I wish I was sort of 3 again.
Jackie and her friends. Give me a child until he is 7, and I will give you the man. This has been a glimpse of Britain's future.